Welcome back to my full build video of the RC10B6.4 Carpet Edition 10th scale buggy video. In this video, I am going to cover bag 3, which is the front hubs and caster blocks. Let's jump straight in and get started. So the first step here is to build up the hubs, and there's actually, you should note that there are 2 hubs. If you look right on the edge here, you'll see some writing there. This one says 4R-1, and the second one here says 4L-1, and then there's a 3L and a 3R as well. I'm gonna put them that way. So yeah, these 2 steering blocks, the 3R and the 4R here, I have them kind of lined up, and you can see that the 3R is actually slightly longer than the 4. And so that's the difference, and that changes the Ackerman and steering rates of the car. So it's just a tuning option. You can test it out and see what you like the best. But I'm actually copying a setup, and for the setup that I'm using, we are actually going to use the 3 blocks. So I'm going to be using the 3R and 3L for this build. Alright, so once you get sorted which block you're going to use, the first thing you're going to do is put these bearings in the block. And you'll notice that the bearings, one side is blue, the other side is metal. And so you're going to want to use the blue side out. All right, so we'll put those bearings in, and yeah, that is the 3. Here's the 3L. Put those in. Alright, so once you get this bearing installed, the next thing you want to do is install this axle. And it's marked on the end here 5mm, which is this hex offset. It's a tuning option, but for my build I'm going to use the stock ones. And it's a little tricky looking at these to know what way is the front, but I can tell you the side with the writing that's flat is the front. So we're going to stick these hexes that way. And then the next thing you want to do is take these little 6mm screws, and you want to use some thread lock on them and install them. And it doesn't have to be a ton of thread lock. I like to put a little ball on there and then just spread it around the threads. So you can kind of hope, not a lot of thread lock, but enough to secure this. And then we stick this thing in, and it should be nice and free to go in. If it's not, you have it cross-threaded. And then once I get this in, I just take a wheel and give it a good snug. That one's in there. We'll do the same thing with this one. Alright, got those built. So then the next step here is we're going to put these little Ackerman plates on. And these are also a tuning option. There's a bunch of different ones. This one, you can see it has one little divot cut out there. So yeah, the kit Ackerman arms here, like I said, it has this little notch here, and that means it's a +1. There's some that have a 2 notch, which is a +2. And then there's also, you can buy these HT +1s, which are actually marked with writing, and you can see they're not the same. So there's a slight change in where that hole goes. Again, this is all about Ackerman, adjusting that, and also steering rate through the throw. Anyway, for this build, I am going to be using the HT plates and not the ones that came with the kit. So I'm going to put these kit ones aside. If you don't have the HT ones and you're following along, then just use the ones that are with the kit. And so you can see here, they go in, they fit in a specific way, like so. And then, you know, it uses 2 different screws. It's going to use one of the 6 mils and one of the 8 mil screws. And the 8 mil goes, anyway, you'll see here the 8 mil screw, it goes, you can see we have that little boss on the outside hole. And so that 8 mil screw is going to go through that one, and then the 6 mil through the other one that doesn't have the boss. And it's interesting because my kit came with a separate bag that actually gave 2 6 mil screws. So I don't know if they changed something or what, but yeah, it was a separate bag to get these 6 mil ones. Just make sure as you put these in that you get them in straight. Alright, so we got that in. Do the same with the other one here. And once we get this thing on, then we're gonna put the this ball on, and it uses a nut, so you don't need any thread lock, although it doesn't hurt. You can use some if you want, but these nuts have nylock in them, so they hold pretty well without, as long as they're new, they hold really well. As they get older, then you can consider either replacing with new nylock or using thread lock. And you'll notice this ball points in the same direction as where the screws were inserted. So you can see the screws there. Point that same, there's the screws, there's the ball joint. And then this is the left and that's the right. Okay, so then the next thing we want to do is we want to start building this caster block. And you have 2 holes up here, which are options for the length of the camber link, and that, you know, the length controls camber gain. So yeah, it's a tuning option. And for the setup I'm copying, I'm going to be using the inside hole, which is marked A on the setup sheet. And then we're going to put this nut on the back here, and you know, it goes into a retainer, so you don't even need you don't need to hold the nut with a tool. So we put that in. All right, so we got these caster blocks, the ball joint in. The next thing you want to do is you want to put the caster insert in, and they're marked on the insert. There's a number. So this has a 5 on it. There's a 2.5 and a 0. And if you put the little, there's like a little tab that hopefully you didn't cut off when you cut it off the tree. There's this little tab there. And if you point that tab up, then it's positive, the number. So for this 5, it would be positive 5 degrees. And if you point that tab down, it's going to be negative. And then there's also a 0, which clearly doesn't matter what way you put it. But for me, I'm going to go positive 5. So I'm going to point that tab up and put it in both of those. And you know, these caster blocks are also marked right down here in the bottom, R -1. And so the -1 caster block goes with the -1 steering block right under the HT there. So in this kit, only uses the -1s, where the kits before it was the standard non-1 stuff. So then is what you're going to do is you're going to install the caster blocks, and you'll notice, or I should say these caster bushings, and you'll notice that one of these screws is longer than the other one, and depending on which is the longest caster bushing, you're going to put that in the long screw in that side. And you know, these screws are going to thread into these blocks, and for me, I find it easier to take this long screw and pre-thread all of these. And I like to use a long screw because I just find that you can see it more, that whether it's in alignment or not. And so I always use this long screw. I actually like to take it can be a little tricky to get these things threaded in straight. Some point I want to make a tool that helps me actually get these in perfect without fussing with them. But I like to put both these long screws in. Get them in here. And then I'll show you what I like to do just to check things. Once you get these screws in, then I like to put my wrench here down this thing and sight to make sure they're in alignment. And these things, they look pretty darn good. So then once you get them in there and they're all aligned, then I just like to thread this thing in a ways and then back and back out. And then, you know, I'm going to go off camera. I'll do the other side, and then I'll show you how to put these all together. All right, so we got these we got these all pre-threaded, and we just started the first little bit of it just to make our lives easier. And so now we've got the right and the left, and so this is the left. So you're going to want to put these together to where this ball stud points forward, this steering one points aft, and the caster bushing that we put in for 5 degrees is on the bottom. And then you see these hat bushings. I mentioned it earlier, but there's 2 different sizes. The kit comes with a 2 mil and a 1 mil. And you can also buy the 0 and 3 mil separately. But this controls the axle height. And so for mine, I'm building this with a +1. So I'm putting the 1 on the bottom where the caster bushing is, and then the 2 on top. And so then you slide this thing in with those bushings in place. And remember, the short goes through the 1, and because I pre-threaded them, I can get them finger tight. And then the tall screw goes in through the 2. Again, I can pre-thread. Like so. And I just like to check this one more time, sight with this screwdriver to make sure everything looks good. And it does. So then we'll just cinch these things down. And I like to cinch one down where it's snug, and then try this thing out and make sure it moves freely. And then if it doesn't, you can loosen it up just a tad, you know, like maybe 1/8 of a turn. But mine feels good. You know, ideally this thing's gonna move freely under its own weight. Yeah, this one feels really nice. So that's my left side. And then we're gonna do the same thing with the right. Make sure you build them in the same way. So the 1 on bottom, the 2 on top. All right, so we got the left and the right done here. So then the next, and really the final build of this bag, is putting these on the car. And so we'll bring this in, and you'll see there's this space in here, and these little wheelbase spacers go in to take up that space. And for this kit setup, those are gonna go in the back for what I'm doing. So what I'll do is I'll stick this pin in, grab that spacer, and get the dexterity here and just kind of drop this thing in and find that hole in there. And then the final thing here is you put this little teeny screw in the arm here to retain that pin. And everything's nice and smooth. And you can put a set screw right in here. The kit shows that as optional. And you know, that can help to retain the caster bushing and also this hinge pin, but I typically don't use them because I like things to be super free, and those can be a little finicky when you build these kits. So I don't use them in my build, but if you would like to use them to have a little extra security, that's an option. And so now we'll just do the same thing here with the other side. Stick that in. It looks like I'm gonna have 2 extra screws here. I think that has to do with the fact that they must have made a mistake and gave me those 2 screws on the side that were 6 mil, and so I have these 2/8 left. So don't be alarmed if you have extras. But yeah, we'll stick those aside. And these are all tuning options, so those are extras. Anyway, that concludes bag 3, and I hope you found this video useful, and if you did, please like and subscribe.